Picture this scene. Ancient Greece, around 300 BC. A successful merchant named Zeno sets sail from his hometown. His ship carries everything he owns, years of careful trading, his entire fortune. The Mediterranean stretches endlessly before him. Clear skies, favorable winds. Everything looks perfect for the journey ahead. Then disaster strikes. A violent storm tears his vessel apart. Lightning splits the sky. Waves tower like mountains. Everything sinks to the ocean floor. Now, pause for a moment. Put yourself in his position. Your life's work vanishes in a single afternoon. Decades of effort. Gone. Your security, destroyed. Your future plans, shattered. How do you respond? Most people would rage against fate. They'd curse the gods. They'd spiral into despair. They'd spend years bitter and broken. They'd blame everyone and everything except themselves. They'd become victims of circumstance. But Zeno did something different, something that would change philosophy forever. He walked ashore. He found a bookshop. He began reading the works of Socrates, and from this devastating loss, he created one of history's most powerful philosophical systems. This wasn't denial. It wasn't suppression. It was transformation, the ability to take life's worst moments and forge them into wisdom. This is the birth of Stoicism, a way of thinking that transforms how we handle life's inevitable storms. A philosophy that has guided emperors and slaves, politicians and prisoners, artists and athletes for over 2,000 years. Today, we're going to explore how this ancient wisdom can revolutionize your modern life, how it can give you unshakable peace in an uncertain world, how it can transform your relationship with success, failure, and everything in between. Today, when people hear Stoic, they picture someone cold, unemotional, robotic, someone who never gets excited about good news or upset about bad news, someone who goes through life like a stone statue. This misses the point entirely. Ancient Stoicism wasn't about suppressing feelings. It was a complete worldview, a practical system for living well, a toolkit for handling whatever life throws at you. It was about feeling deeply while thinking clearly. The early Stoics didn't hide in ivory towers. They didn't create exclusive clubs for the intellectual elite. They taught in public spaces, markets, town squares, street corners. They called their school the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, because they literally taught under a public colonnade. Why? Because they believed everyone deserved access to wisdom. Not just the wealthy, not just the educated, not just the privileged few. Everyone, rich or poor, slave or free, male or female, citizen or foreigner. The Stoics believed that philosophical wisdom was humanity's birthright. They thought it was criminal to hoard life-changing knowledge behind closed doors. And the evidence proves their point. History's greatest Stoics came from every walk of life, every social class, every background imaginable. Consider Epictetus, born a slave. His name literally means acquired property. He was owned like furniture, beaten by his masters, treated as less than human. Yet he became one of philosophy's most respected teachers. His writings influenced emperors and continue to guide millions today. Or Seneca, a politician navigating the dangerous world of Roman politics, a man who accumulated vast wealth while teaching about simplicity, someone who had to balance philosophical ideals with practical necessities, using Stoic principles to maintain integrity in a corrupt system. And Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, an emperor who could have indulged every desire, who could have lived in pure luxury and decadence. Instead, he chose philosophical reflection. He wrote personal notes to himself about virtue, duty, and the nature of existence. These weren't emotionless robots. They were fully human. They felt joy, sorrow, anger, and fear. They experienced love, loss, triumph, and failure. But they developed tools to work with these emotions constructively. They learned to feel without being controlled by their feelings. The Stoics also championed progressive values that were radical for their time. They coined the term cosmopolitan, citizen of the world. They believed all humans belonged to a universal community. They fought against inequality based on birth, race, or social status. They welcomed women into philosophical discussions when society forbade it. Musonius Rufus, a leading Stoic teacher, argued passionately for women's education. He asked why men alone should pursue wisdom when women possess equal capacity for virtue and learning. He taught that excluding half of humanity from philosophical training was not just unfair, but foolish. This wasn't just theory. Stoic communities actively practiced inclusion centuries before it became fashionable. They created spaces where slaves could debate with senators, where women could engage with male scholars, where foreigners were welcomed as equals. They understood something we're still learning today. Diversity of perspective strengthens wisdom. When you only hear from people who look like you, think like you, and live like you, your understanding remains limited. True philosophy requires engagement with the full spectrum of human experience. Here's a fundamental truth about human psychology. We don't suffer because bad things happen. We suffer because unexpected things happen, because reality clashes with our expectations. Think about rain. Objectively, it's beneficial. It waters crops. It fills reservoirs. It cools the air. It sustains all life on Earth. Without rain, civilization would collapse. But when you're caught outside without an umbrella, suddenly it's the worst thing in the world. You're angry at the sky. You're frustrated with yourself. You're miserable, despite experiencing something that makes your existence possible. The difference isn't the rain itself. It's your expectations. You expected sunshine. You planned for clear weather. Reality didn't cooperate with your plans. Stoics understood this principle deeply. They taught that we should prepare mentally for difficulties, not with pessimism, but with realistic acceptance. Not expecting the worst, but acknowledging that difficulties are part of life's natural rhythm. One powerful exercise they developed involves voluntary discomfort. Sleep on the floor occasionally. Take cold showers. Eat simple meals for a few days. Walk instead of driving. Wear less comfortable clothes. This isn't masochism, it's mental training. You're proving to yourself that you can handle discomfort, that basic survival doesn't require luxury. That happiness comes from within, not from external conditions. Each time you choose temporary discomfort, you build psychological resilience. You expand your comfort zone. You reduce your dependence on perfect circumstances for peace of mind. In our current culture, this message feels revolutionary. We're constantly bombarded with advertisements. Buy this product and you'll be happy. Look this way and you'll be loved. Earn this much money and you'll feel successful. Live in this neighborhood and you'll be respected. The underlying message is always the same. Your current situation isn't enough. You need more. You need different. You need better. And if you're not completely satisfied with your life, it's because you haven't acquired the right external things yet. But here's what the marketers won't tell you. External sources of happiness always disappoint eventually, not because they're inherently bad, but because they're inherently temporary. Everything changes. Everything breaks down. Everything eventually ends. Most people build their sense of worth on shaky foundations: career success, physical appearance, social media followers, bank account balances, other people's opinions, achievements and accolades, status symbols, and social position. The problem? You can't control these things completely. You can influence them, you can work toward them, but you can't guarantee specific outcomes. Economic recessions destroy savings overnight. Accidents change, appearances instantly, algorithms shift, and your online presence vanishes. Companies downsize and eliminate positions. People change their minds about you for reasons you'll never understand. When your happiness depends on external factors, you're essentially gambling with your peace of mind. You're placing your emotional well-being in the hands of forces beyond your control. You're setting yourself up for anxiety, disappointment, and frustration. Ancient Stoics recognized this trap 2,000 years ago. They taught a different approach. Build your self-worth on things you actually control: your effort, your character, your response to challenges, your commitment to growth, your treatment of other people. These internal factors remain stable even when external circumstances shift dramatically. You can maintain your integrity during economic downturns. You can preserve your character despite social pressure. You can continue growing regardless of outside recognition. Seneca expressed this beautifully. He wrote that learning to live with less creates space for what truly matters. When you're not chasing external validation constantly, you have energy for meaningful pursuits. When you're not worried about impressing others, you can focus on becoming the person you want to be. This doesn't mean avoiding ambition. It doesn't mean giving up on goals or dreams. It means holding ambitions lightly. Work hard toward your objectives. But don't let success or failure define your worth as a person. Think of it like this. You're an archer aiming at a target. You can control your stance, your grip, your breathing, your aim, your release. These elements are entirely within your influence. But once the arrow leaves your bow, external factors take over. Wind conditions, target stability, equipment variables. You've done everything within your power. The outcome depends on forces beyond your control. A wise archer measures success by the quality of their shot, not just whether they hit the bullseye. They focus on perfecting their technique rather than obsessing over results they can't guarantee. Every Stoic learns one fundamental distinction. Some things are up to you, some things aren't. Wisdom means knowing the difference. Peace comes from focusing your energy where it can actually make a difference. Epictetus taught this as life's essential task. Separate external circumstances from your internal responses. Pour your effort into what you can influence. Accept what lies beyond your power to change. This isn't passive resignation. It's strategic wisdom. It's the difference between spinning your wheels in frustration and moving forward with purpose. Let me give you a modern example. Creating content online. Whether it's writing, videos, podcasts, or social media posts. You control the research, the brainstorming process, the writing and editing, the quality of your work, the consistency of your output, the value you provide to your audience. These elements are entirely within your influence. You can improve your skills, you can refine your message, you can study your craft, you can experiment with different approaches, you can invest time and energy into becoming better at what you do. But once you publish, the response is largely out of your hands. Algorithms determine reach, audiences decide engagement, competitors might copy your ideas. Economic conditions affect people's attention and spending. Trends shift in unpredictable directions. Many creators judge their success solely on metrics they can't control. Views, likes, shares, revenue, subscriber counts. Then they wonder why they feel anxious and unfulfilled despite working hard and producing quality content. They're measuring their worth using someone else's yardstick. They're placing their self-esteem in the hands of forces they can't command. Stoics would approach this differently. They'd measure success by effort invested, quality of work produced, consistency of output, personal growth through the process, value delivered to the audience, improvement over time. Same activity, completely different emotional experience. One approach leads to frustration and burnout. The other leads to sustainable satisfaction and continuous improvement. Consider another scenario that most people can relate to. You've worked hard for 6 months. Really hard. You've exceeded expectations. You've taken on extra responsibilities. You've solved problems and created value. You deserve a promotion. You prepare a comprehensive presentation. You gather evidence of your contributions. You research salary ranges and make a compelling case. You schedule a meeting with your manager and present your argument professionally. They say no. The typical response? Anger, self-doubt, resentment. I must be terrible at my job. They don't appreciate me. This company is unfair. I should look for work elsewhere. But what if the decision had nothing to do with your performance? Maybe budget constraints limited promotions this quarter. Maybe internal politics influenced the choice. Maybe your manager is dealing with pressure from above. Maybe there's a reorganization coming that affects all advancement decisions. You'll never know the full story. You'll never understand all the factors that influence the decision, but you're still upset based on assumptions about things you can't control. A Stoic approach focuses on what you actually controlled, the quality of your presentation, the effort you invested in preparing, the skills you developed over the past 6 months, the value you created for the organization, the case you made for advancement. All of these elements remain valuable, regardless of the immediate outcome. Your goal isn't abandoned, it's just postponed. You keep doing excellent work. You remain prepared for the next opportunity. You don't waste emotional energy on factors beyond your influence. This perspective transforms your relationship with both success and failure. Success becomes less intoxicating because you understand the role of external factors. Failure becomes less devastating because you can separate your worth from outcomes you can't completely control. Classical Stoicism identifies 4 essential virtues. These aren't abstract ideals floating in philosophical clouds. They're practical guidelines for daily decisions. They're character traits you can develop through consistent practice. First, wisdom. This means distinguishing between what you control and what you don't. It's about understanding human nature, recognizing patterns, learning from experience, seeing situations clearly rather than through the lens of wishful thinking or fearful projection. Wisdom involves emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize your feelings without being controlled by them, the skill of understanding other people's motivations without taking their actions personally, the capacity to learn from mistakes without being paralyzed by regret. Viktor Frankl captured this beautifully when he wrote about his experiences in Nazi concentration camps. He said there's always a space between what happens to you and how you respond. In that space lies your freedom to choose, your power to decide what kind of person you'll be regardless of external circumstances. Wisdom is learning to live in that space, to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, to choose your response based on your values rather than your impulses. Second, courage. Not just physical bravery, but moral courage. The willingness to do what's right when it's difficult, to persist when things get tough, to resist when pressures mount, to speak truth when silence would be easier. Courage appears in small daily choices as much as dramatic moments. It's admitting when you're wrong, standing up for someone being treated unfairly, having difficult conversations instead of avoiding them, pursuing meaningful goals despite the risk of failure. Sometimes courage means taking action, speaking up in meetings, starting a difficult project, ending an unhealthy relationship, moving to a new city, changing careers. Sometimes courage means staying still, not reacting to provocation, maintaining your principles under pressure, refusing to compromise your values for short-term gain, waiting for the right moment to act. Always, it means staying true to your principles, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or costly. Third, temperance. The art of moderation, knowing when you have enough, resisting the urge for excess, finding satisfaction in simplicity, understanding the difference between wants and needs. Temperance isn't about deprivation, it's about conscious choice. It's enjoying pleasures without being enslaved by them. It's having nice things without being defined by them. It's pursuing success without sacrificing your humanity. While billionaires compete for ultimate wealth, Stoics ask different questions. What do I actually need to be happy? What brings genuine satisfaction? How much is enough? When does more become too much? This virtue becomes more relevant every year as consumer culture intensifies. We're constantly encouraged to want more, buy more, consume more, upgrade constantly, never be satisfied with what we have. Temperance provides an alternative approach. Gratitude for what exists, appreciation for simple pleasures, contentment that doesn't depend on constant acquisition, the ability to enjoy abundance without being possessed by it. Fourth, justice. This is the most important virtue according to classical Stoicism. It recognizes our fundamental interconnectedness. No one succeeds entirely alone. We all benefit from cooperation and mutual support. We're all part of a larger human community. Justice means considering how your actions affect others, It means contributing to the common good. It means treating people with dignity regardless of their status, background, or ability to help you. It means standing up for those who can't defend themselves. This virtue extends beyond legal justice to encompass fairness, kindness, and compassion in daily interactions. It's about being a good colleague, neighbor, friend, and family member. It's about leaving situations better than you found them. Justice also involves self-respect. You can't treat others well if you treat yourself poorly. You can't contribute to the common good if you're depleted and bitter. Taking care of your own well-being becomes an act of service to everyone around you. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. Let that number sink in. Most people don't work at the same job for 27 years. Most people don't live in the same house for 27 years. Mandela spent nearly 3 decades behind bars for fighting against an unjust system. Robben Island, a place designed to break spirits, harsh conditions, brutal guards, backbreaking labor, constant surveillance, limited contact with family, no guarantee of ever being released. Most people would emerge from such an experience broken, bitter, filled with rage and desire for revenge, ready to inflict suffering on those who had caused their pain. During his imprisonment, Mandela studied Marcus Aurelius. He absorbed Stoic principles. He practiced them daily in the harshest conditions imaginable. He used philosophy as a tool for survival and transformation. The guards tried to control his body. They couldn't control his mind. They could limit his movements. They couldn't limit his thoughts. They could imprison his flesh. They couldn't imprison his spirit. When he was finally released, the entire world expected vengeance, the oppressed becoming the oppressor, violence begetting more violence, decades of injustice being repaid with decades of retribution. Instead, Mandela chose reconciliation. He focused on building a better future rather than punishing the past. He understood that revenge wouldn't undo decades of suffering, but forgiveness might prevent decades more. This wasn't weakness. This wasn't naive idealism. This was strategic wisdom about effective response. Mandela fought the system, but he didn't let anger consume him. He remained focused on his ultimate goal, a just society for all. He could have emerged from prison as a symbol of rage. Instead, he became a symbol of dignity. He could have divided his country further. Instead, he helped heal it. He could have perpetuated cycles of violence. Instead, he broke them. His example shows us something profound about Stoicism in practice. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you strategically strong. It helps you respond to challenges in ways that actually improve situations rather than just expressing emotions. Mandela felt anger. He experienced frustration. He struggled with resentment, but he didn't let these feelings dictate his actions. He used them as information while making decisions based on his values and long-term vision. This is what mature Stoicism looks like. Not the suppression of emotion, but the skillful use of emotion. Not the absence of feeling, but the presence of wisdom in how you handle what you feel. Today's most effective therapeutic approaches draw heavily from Stoic principles, often without explicitly acknowledging the connection. The core insights that helped people 2,000 years ago continue to help people today because human nature hasn't fundamentally changed. Rational emotive behavior therapy, developed by Albert Ellis, helps people identify destructive thought patterns. It teaches them to challenge negative assumptions with logical analysis. It shows them how to separate facts from interpretations, events from emotions, circumstances from character. When you examine your fears closely, many prove unfounded. When you question your automatic reactions, better responses often emerge. When you slow down your mental processes, you discover choices you didn't know you had. The therapy asks powerful questions. Is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this belief based on evidence or assumption? Am I responding to what actually happened or to my interpretation of what happened? What would I tell a good friend in this situation? These questions echo ancient Stoic practices. They help you step outside your immediate emotional reactions and examine situations more objectively. They create space between stimulus and response, where wisdom can operate. Logotherapy, developed by Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, centers on finding meaning in difficult circumstances. Even in the darkest situations, humans can discover purpose. This purpose becomes a source of strength that external circumstances can't destroy. Frankl observed that concentration camp prisoners who maintained a sense of meaning were more likely to survive, not because they were physically stronger, but because they were psychologically more resilient. They had reasons to endure that transcended their immediate suffering. This insight directly parallels Stoic teachings about the importance of virtue and purpose over pleasure and comfort. When your life has meaning beyond personal happiness, you can weather storms that would devastate someone focused solely on feeling good. Both therapeutic approaches echo ancient Stoic teachings while using modern language and methods. Your thoughts shape your emotions. Your emotions influence your actions. Your actions create your character. Therefore, learning to think clearly is learning to live well. This isn't about positive thinking or denial. It's not about pretending problems don't exist or minimizing real difficulties. It's about realistic assessment, accurate perception, practical wisdom about what you can and cannot change. The goal isn't permanent happiness. That's neither possible nor desirable. The goal is resilience, the ability to handle whatever comes, the skill to maintain your values under pressure, the wisdom to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Developing Stoic resilience requires consistent practice. Like physical fitness, mental strength needs regular exercise. You can't expect to handle major crises well if you haven't trained yourself to handle minor inconveniences skillfully. Start by paying attention to your reactions throughout the day. When something upsets you, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this within my control or outside it? Am I responding to facts or to my interpretation of facts? If it's outside your control, practice acceptance. This doesn't mean approval. You don't have to like what's happening, but you acknowledge reality and conserve your energy for productive responses rather than wasting it on wishful thinking or futile resistance. If it's within your control, make a plan, take action, focus on what you can actually influence. Break the situation down into specific, actionable steps. Move forward purposefully rather than spinning in emotional circles. Notice how often you seek validation from external sources throughout the day. Likes on social media, approval from colleagues, recognition from authority figures, compliments from strangers, agreement from family members. These aren't necessarily bad. Social connection is important. Feedback helps us improve. Recognition feels good, but they become problems when they determine your self-worth. When your mood depends entirely on other people's responses to you, practice finding satisfaction in your own effort and growth. Celebrate completing tasks well, regardless of external recognition. Take pride in your character development even when no one notices. Find joy in the process of learning and improving. Experiment with voluntary simplicity regularly. Skip a meal occasionally. Take cold showers. Sleep without your usual comforts. Walk instead of driving when possible. Wear less expensive clothes. Eat simpler foods. You're not punishing yourself. You're proving that happiness doesn't depend on perfect conditions. You're building confidence in your ability to handle discomfort. You're reducing your dependence on external circumstances for inner peace. Each small practice builds psychological muscle. Each time you choose discomfort voluntarily, you become less afraid of discomfort that comes involuntarily. Each time you find contentment in simplicity, you become less dependent on complexity for satisfaction. Practice gratitude daily, but make it specific and genuine. Instead of generic thankfulness, identify particular people, experiences, or circumstances you appreciate. Notice small pleasures you typically overlook. Acknowledge challenges that have contributed to your growth. Study your own patterns. When do you typically get upset? What triggers your strongest reactions? Which situations challenge your patience most? What external factors affect your mood most significantly? Knowledge is power. When you understand your patterns, you can prepare for them. When you recognize your triggers, you can respond more skillfully. When you know your weaknesses, you can develop strategies to address them. Read Stoic texts regularly, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, Epictetus's Discourses, Seneca's letters, not as ancient curiosities, but as practical guides for modern living. These writers faced the same fundamental human challenges you face. Their insights remain relevant. But don't just read, apply. Experiment with their suggestions. Test their principles in your daily life. See which practices help you and which don't resonate. Philosophy without application is just intellectual entertainment. As you develop basic Stoic skills, you can explore more sophisticated applications. These practices require a foundation of emotional stability and self-awareness, but they can dramatically deepen your resilience and wisdom. Negative visualization involves imagining loss to increase appreciation for what you have, not dwelling morbidly on disaster, but briefly considering how you'd handle various challenges. This mental rehearsal prepares you psychologically while increasing gratitude for your current circumstances. Imagine losing your job. How would you respond? What skills would you draw upon? What support systems could you access? This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. When you've considered possibilities in advance, you're less likely to panic if they occur. Imagine health challenges, relationship difficulties, financial setbacks, the death of loved ones, not to torture yourself, but to build psychological flexibility, to reduce the shock if difficult things happen, to appreciate what you have while you have it. View from above involves imagining your current problems from a broader perspective. How will this issue matter in 10 years? What would an outside observer think about this situation? How does this challenge compare to what billions of people face daily? This practice combats the natural human tendency to magnify immediate problems. When you're stuck in traffic, you feel like it's the most important thing in the world. From a cosmic perspective, it's a minor inconvenience that will be forgotten within hours. Memento mori means remembering death, not in a depressing way, but as motivation to live meaningfully. Your time is limited. Every day matters. Every interaction is precious. Every opportunity for growth and contribution should be valued. This perspective clarifies priorities quickly. The things that seemed urgent yesterday matter less when you remember that life is temporary. The energy you waste on petty conflicts could be invested in meaningful relationships. The time you spend worrying could be used for creating value. Role ethics involves clearly defining your various responsibilities and making decisions that honor all of them. You're simultaneously a parent, employee, citizen, friend, and individual. Sometimes these roles create conflicting demands. Stoicism helps you navigate these complexities thoughtfully. What does it mean to be a good parent in this situation? A good employee? A good citizen? When roles conflict, which values take priority? How can you honor multiple responsibilities without compromising your integrity? Sympathia refers to the interconnectedness of all things. Your well-being affects others. Others' well-being affects you. Individual and collective good align when understood properly. This perspective motivates ethical behavior and discourages selfishness. When you harm others, you harm the community you're part of. When you help others, you strengthen the system that supports you. When you develop your character, you become better able to contribute to the common good. Life will test your philosophical principles through significant difficulties: job loss, serious illness, relationship breakdown, financial crisis, family emergencies, the death of loved ones. These situations reveal whether your wisdom is theoretical or practical. When facing job loss, Stoicism offers several powerful reframes. You can't control economic conditions, company decisions, or market forces, but you can control your response, your effort to find new opportunities, your attitude during the transition, your use of unexpected free time for skill development or relationship building. This situation might lead to better opportunities. Many successful entrepreneurs started companies after being laid off. Many people discovered their true calling after losing jobs they didn't really love. What feels like disaster might become the catalyst for positive change. Even if the transition is difficult, you can maintain your dignity throughout the process. You can treat former colleagues with grace. You can help other job seekers. You can use this experience to develop empathy and resilience. When dealing with serious illness, the dichotomy of control becomes especially relevant. You can't control your diagnosis. You can't guarantee treatment outcomes. But you can control your response to medical challenges. You can follow treatment recommendations consistently. You can maintain healthy habits within your limitations. You can build strong relationships with healthcare providers. You can use this experience to deepen important relationships and clarify life priorities. Many people report that serious illness, despite its difficulties, led to greater appreciation for life, stronger relationships, and clearer sense of purpose. The challenge forced them to focus on what truly mattered rather than pursuing superficial goals. When relationships end, Stoicism provides tools for handling rejection, betrayal, and loss. You can't control other people's feelings or decisions. You can't guarantee relationship outcomes, but you can control your own behavior and attitude. You can treat your former partner with respect even if they don't reciprocate. You can learn from relationship mistakes without being consumed by regret. You can use this transition as an opportunity for personal growth and self-discovery. The end of one relationship creates space for new connections. The skills you develop handling relationship challenges strengthen your capacity for future partnerships. The independence you rediscover might be exactly what you needed. When losing loved ones, grief is natural and healthy. Stoicism doesn't advocate emotional suppression, but it does offer perspective that can provide comfort during mourning. The people you love continue to influence you through memories, values they taught you, and ways they shaped your character. Death ends physical presence, but doesn't erase impact. The love you shared remains real, even after loss. Your grief honors the relationship you had. The pain you feel reflects the joy you experienced. The emptiness you experience demonstrates the fullness that person brought to your life. These difficult emotions are testament to meaningful connection. The workplace provides countless opportunities to practice Stoic principles: office politics, demanding deadlines, difficult colleagues, unfair decisions, budget cuts, reorganizations. These situations test your ability to maintain composure while pursuing professional goals. Dealing with difficult colleagues becomes manageable when you focus on what you control. You can't change their personality, attitude, or behavior, but you can control your responses to them. Your professionalism, your boundaries, your communication style. Instead of trying to fix them or getting frustrated by their limitations, focus on protecting your own well-being and doing your job effectively. Maintain cordial relationships without becoming emotionally invested in their approval or cooperation. Sometimes difficult people are dealing with personal challenges you don't know about. Sometimes their behavior reflects organizational pressures rather than character flaws. Sometimes they're testing boundaries to see how you'll respond. Your consistent professionalism often influences others positively over time. People notice when you maintain dignity under pressure. Your example sometimes inspires better behavior from colleagues who respect your character. Managing work stress involves distinguishing between productive concern and wasteful worry. Concern motivates appropriate action. Worry spins in circles without generating solutions. Stoicism helps you channel mental energy productively. When facing deadlines, focus on task completion rather than anxiety about outcomes. Break large projects into manageable steps. Work steadily without rushing frantically. Maintain quality standards without perfectionist paralysis. When dealing with uncertainty, gather available information and make the best decisions possible with what you know. Avoid spending energy on scenarios you can't predict or control. Focus on preparing for likely possibilities while remaining flexible for unexpected developments. Pursuing career advancement benefits from Stoic principles about effort versus outcomes. Work hard, develop skills, build relationships, contribute value. But don't tie your self-worth entirely to promotion timelines or salary increases. Sometimes advancement depends on factors beyond your control. Economic conditions, organizational politics, timing, budget constraints, other candidates' qualifications. Focus on becoming the type of person who deserves advancement, while accepting that deserving doesn't guarantee receiving. Use career setbacks as learning opportunities. What skills need development? What relationships need strengthening? What attitudes need adjustment? How can this experience prepare you for future opportunities? Stoicism profoundly improves relationships when applied thoughtfully, not by making you emotionally distant, but by helping you love more skillfully, by reducing reactive patterns that damage connections, by increasing your capacity for patience, understanding, and genuine care. In romantic relationships, the dichotomy of control prevents many common conflicts. You can't control your partner's moods, decisions, or personal growth, but you can control your own behavior, communication, and attitude. Instead of trying to change your partner, focus on being the type of partner you'd want to be with. Instead of demanding specific responses, express your needs clearly and allow them to respond authentically. Instead of taking their bad days personally, maintain your center while offering support. This doesn't mean accepting unacceptable behavior. It means distinguishing between personality differences and genuine problems. It means addressing issues directly, rather than hoping subtle hints will create change. It means maintaining your standards while allowing others their autonomy. In parenting, Stoicism provides invaluable guidance for the ultimate exercise in loving without controlling. You influence your children through example, instruction, and environment, but you can't control their choices, personalities, or life outcomes. Focus on being the parent you want to be, rather than trying to produce specific results in your children. Provide guidance without micromanaging. Set boundaries without being controlling. Support their growth without living vicariously through their achievements. Your children will make mistakes. They'll reject some of your values. They'll choose paths you wouldn't choose. This is natural and healthy. Your job is to prepare them for independence, not to create miniature versions of yourself. The values you model consistently will influence them more than the lectures you give. The way you handle stress, treat others, and pursue your goals teaches them about life more effectively than any explicit instruction. In friendships, Stoicism helps you appreciate people as they are rather than as you wish they were. Some friends are reliable, others are fun but flaky. Some offer emotional support. Others provide intellectual stimulation. Some are lifelong companions. Others are wonderful for specific seasons. Accept the gifts each friendship offers without demanding more than it can provide. Enjoy lighthearted friends without expecting deep conversations. Appreciate reliable friends without demanding constant excitement. Value old friends without rejecting new ones. When friends disappoint you, consider whether your expectations were realistic. Did you communicate your needs clearly? Are you asking them to meet needs that might be better met elsewhere? Can you adjust your expectations while maintaining the relationship? In family relationships, Stoicism helps navigate complex dynamics that often trigger childhood patterns. Family members know which buttons to push. They remember your past mistakes. They have strong opinions about your choices. You can't change family history. You can't control family members' behavior or attitudes, but you can control your responses to them, your boundaries, your communication style, your level of engagement. Sometimes, loving family members means accepting their limitations while protecting your own well-being. Sometimes it means having difficult conversations about behavior patterns. Sometimes it means maintaining distance to preserve the relationship long-term. The key is responding from your adult self rather than your wounded inner child. Family dynamics can regress you to old patterns quickly. Stoicism helps you maintain perspective and respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Money creates unique challenges for philosophical living. Too little creates stress and limits options. Too much can corrupt values and create new anxieties. Stoicism offers balanced guidance for handling financial matters wisely. The Stoic approach to wealth recognizes money as a tool rather than a goal. Money can facilitate virtue or vice depending on how it's used. It can provide security and enable generosity. It can also create greed and foster inequality. Ancient Stoics like Seneca were wealthy, but maintained perspective about their riches. They understood that money could disappear as quickly as it accumulated. They held their wealth lightly while using it responsibly. The goal isn't poverty or wealth, but sufficiency. Having enough to meet genuine needs while maintaining freedom from financial anxiety. This requires understanding the difference between wants and needs, which consumer culture deliberately obscures. Voluntary simplicity becomes especially relevant in financial matters. Before making purchases, ask yourself, do I need this or want it? Will this add genuine value to my life or just temporary pleasure? Am I buying this to solve a real problem or to fill an emotional void? Many purchases are attempts to buy feelings rather than things. We buy expensive clothes hoping to feel confident. We buy luxury cars hoping to feel successful. We buy bigger houses hoping to feel secure. But external purchases can't create internal states reliably. Dealing with financial setbacks tests your philosophical principles directly. Job loss, market crashes, unexpected expenses, medical bills, business failures. These situations reveal whether your peace depends on your bank balance. Stoicism reminds you that financial security is largely illusory anyway. Economic conditions change, companies fail, investments lose value, even government currencies can collapse. True security comes from your ability to adapt and create value regardless of circumstances. Focus on what you can control during financial difficulties: your spending habits, your job search efforts, your skill development, your attitude toward money, your relationships with people who can help, your creativity in finding solutions. Use financial challenges as opportunities to practice voluntary simplicity. Discover what you actually need versus what you thought you needed. Find free or inexpensive sources of joy. Strengthen relationships that don't depend on money. Develop skills that create value. Building wealth the Stoic way involves patience, consistency, and ethical behavior. Avoid get-rich-quick schemes that promise unrealistic returns. Focus on creating genuine value rather than manipulating systems. Build wealth through consistent effort over time rather than spectacular gambles. Save and invest regularly, but hold financial goals lightly. Work toward financial independence while finding satisfaction in the process rather than just the outcome. Use growing wealth to increase your ability to help others rather than just to acquire more possessions. Remember that wealth brings responsibilities as well as privileges. The more resources you control, the greater your obligation to use them wisely. Consider how your financial decisions affect not just yourself and your family, but your community and future generations. Global events regularly test our philosophical foundations. Pandemics, economic recessions, political upheaval, natural disasters, war, climate change, social unrest. These large-scale challenges can overwhelm individual coping mechanisms. Stoicism shines brightest during such difficult periods because it was developed by people who lived through their own versions of these challenges. Ancient Stoics experienced plagues, wars, political instability, and natural disasters. Their wisdom emerged from practical necessity, not theoretical speculation. During pandemics or health crises, Stoic principles provide crucial guidance. You can't control the spread of disease or government responses, but you can control your precautionary behaviors, your information consumption, and your attitude toward uncertainty. Focus on following reasonable health guidelines without becoming paralyzed by anxiety. Stay informed without becoming obsessed with news cycles. Maintain social connections while respecting necessary restrictions. Use periods of isolation for reflection, skill development, or creative pursuits. Remember that humans have survived countless health crises throughout history. Each generation faces challenges that feel unprecedented but are actually part of the human experience. Your generation's challenges are real and serious, but they're not insurmountable. During economic uncertainty, Stoicism helps maintain perspective about material security. Economic systems are human creations that rise and fall cyclically. Individual financial situations fluctuate regardless of overall economic conditions. Focus on developing skills that create value in any economic environment. Build relationships that transcend financial circumstances. Practice living below your means during good times so you're prepared for difficult periods. Find sources of satisfaction that don't require spending money. Use economic challenges as opportunities to reassess your values and priorities. What really matters when financial security disappears? Which relationships remain strong when you can't afford expensive entertainment? What sources of meaning survive economic turbulence? During political upheaval, Stoicism provides tools for maintaining sanity and perspective. Political systems are temporary human arrangements. Leaders come and go. Policies change. What seems permanent today will be historical footnote tomorrow. You can't control electoral outcomes, policy decisions, or other people's political opinions. But you can control your civic participation, your treatment of people who disagree with you, and your response to political developments. Stay engaged without becoming consumed. Vote consistently. Support causes you believe in. Have respectful conversations with people who hold different views. But don't let political events control your emotional state or dominate your mental energy entirely. Remember that political opponents are fellow human beings, not enemies. They have different perspectives based on different experiences and values. Understanding their viewpoints doesn't require agreeing with them, but it does require recognizing their humanity. During natural disasters, the dichotomy of control becomes especially clear. You can't prevent earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, or fires, but you can prepare for likely disasters in your area. You can respond helpfully when disasters strike. You can support recovery efforts afterward. Natural disasters remind us of our fundamental vulnerability and interdependence. They strip away illusions of complete control and reveal what really matters. They also demonstrate human resilience and capacity for mutual aid during difficult times. Use the threat of natural disasters as motivation for emergency preparedness without becoming paralyzed by fear. Have reasonable supplies and evacuation plans. Build relationships with neighbors who might need help or be able to help you. Develop skills that would be useful during emergencies. Perhaps no topic tests, philosophical wisdom more than aging and death. Youth's illusion of immortality gradually gives way to awareness of physical limitations and finite time. How we handle this transition shapes our later years profoundly. Aging gracefully involves accepting physical changes while maintaining mental vitality. Your body will decline regardless of your attitude toward it, but your response to physical limitations remains within your control. Focus on what you can still do rather than mourning what you've lost. Adapt activities to current capabilities rather than abandoning them entirely. Find new sources of meaning and contribution that match your evolving abilities. Use accumulated wisdom to benefit others. Share knowledge gained through decades of experience. Mentor younger people who face challenges you've navigated. Contribute perspectives that only come with age and reflection. Aging also provides opportunities for deeper philosophical understanding. When time feels limited, priorities clarify naturally. Superficial concerns fade while essential values strengthen. Relationships deepen when both parties recognize their temporary nature. Contemplating mortality enriches life rather than diminishing it when approached thoughtfully. Awareness of death motivates meaningful action. Limited time makes each day precious. Temporary existence encourages appreciation for present moments. The Stoic practice of memento mori isn't morbid dwelling on death, but realistic acknowledgement of life's finite nature. This awareness can reduce anxiety about trivial matters while increasing urgency about important ones. Death gives life meaning by providing boundaries. Without endings, beginnings lose significance. Without mortality, choices carry less weight. Without death, life becomes an endless drift rather than a purposeful journey. Preparing for death involves both practical and philosophical elements. Handle legal and financial arrangements responsibly, but also consider what legacy you want to leave. What values do you want to pass on? What impact do you want your life to have had? This isn't about achieving fame or building monuments. It's about living in ways that contribute positively to the human story. Being a good parent, friend, colleague, citizen. Treating people with dignity, contributing to your community, leaving things better than you found them. The best preparation for death is living well. When you've lived according to your values, treated others fairly, and contributed meaningfully, death becomes less frightening. You can face it with the satisfaction of having played your part well in the human drama. After developing basic Stoic skills and exploring various applications, the goal becomes integration. Living as a modern Stoic means embodying these principles naturally, rather than applying them consciously in each situation. Daily rhythm for a practicing Stoic includes regular reflection and planning. Morning preparation for the day ahead, consideration of likely challenges and appropriate responses. Evening review of how well you lived up to your principles. This isn't rigid self-monitoring, but gentle self-awareness, noticing patterns, celebrating progress, identifying areas for improvement, adjusting approaches based on what works and what doesn't. Decision-making becomes more straightforward when filtered through Stoic values. Is this action virtuous? Does it contribute to the common good? Am I responding from wisdom or emotion? Will this matter in 10 years? These questions don't guarantee perfect decisions, but they improve the quality of your choices consistently. They help you avoid impulsive actions you'll regret later. They align daily decisions with deeper values. Relationships deepen when approached with Stoic wisdom. You love more freely when you're not trying to control outcomes. You communicate more clearly when you're not managing others' responses. You enjoy connections more fully when you're present rather than anxious. Work becomes more satisfying when pursued with Stoic principles. You focus on contribution rather than recognition. You handle setbacks more resilience. You treat colleagues more fairly. You maintain integrity under pressure. Challenges become opportunities for growth rather than threats to avoid. Each difficulty tests your philosophical development. Each setback reveals areas for improvement. Each crisis demonstrates your progress in developing unshakable peace. Individual philosophical development affects entire communities. When you become more resilient, patient, and wise, everyone around you benefits. Your family experiences less drama. Your colleagues enjoy better working relationships. Your community gains a more contributing member. This multiplier effect makes personal development a form of social service. By working on yourself, you're not being selfish. You're preparing to serve others more effectively. You're reducing the burden you place on relationships while increasing the value you provide. Children especially benefit from adult Stoic practice. They learn emotional regulation through observation more than instruction. When they see adults handling stress calmly, they develop confidence in their own ability to handle difficulties. When they see adults treating others fairly, regardless of social status, they internalize values of equality and respect. When they see adults pursuing meaningful goals persistently, they learn the value of effort and resilience. Organizations improve when members practice Stoic principles. Less office drama, more focus on actual work, better handling of change and uncertainty, more ethical decision-making, improved cooperation across different departments and levels. Communities become stronger when residents embody Stoic virtues, more civic participation, less partisan hostility, greater concern for common good, better support for vulnerable members, more resilience during collective challenges. The ancient Stoics understood this interconnectedness deeply. They called it sympathia, the recognition that individual and collective well-being are inseparably linked. When you improve yourself, you improve the world. When you harm yourself, you harm others. Philosophy without practice remains merely intellectual entertainment. The goal isn't to understand Stoicism perfectly, but to live it imperfectly but consistently. Start small, build gradually. Focus on progress rather than perfection. Week 1. Pay attention to the dichotomy of control. Throughout each day, notice when you're frustrated about things outside your influence. Practice redirecting energy toward things you can actually change. Week 2. Add morning reflection. Spend 5 minutes each morning considering the day ahead. What challenges might arise? How do you want to respond? What values will guide your decisions? Week 3. Include evening review. Spend 5 minutes each evening reflecting on the day past. What went well? What could improve? What did you learn about yourself? How did you live up to your principles? Week 4. Experiment with voluntary discomfort. Choose small challenges that build mental resilience. Cold showers, simple meals, walking instead of driving, sleeping without usual comforts. Month 2. Begin reading classical Stoic texts. Start with Epictetus and Enchiridion. A short practical manual. Read slowly. Apply insights rather than rushing through content. Month 3. Practice the 4 virtues deliberately. Look for opportunities to exercise wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice in daily situations. Notice how these practices affect your satisfaction and relationships. Month 4. Work on emotional regulation. When strong emotions arise, pause before reacting. Ask yourself what response would align with your values. Practice responding thoughtfully rather than automatically. Month 5. Focus on relationships. Apply Stoic principles to interactions with family, friends, colleagues. Notice how your changed responses affect relationship dynamics. Month 6. Integrate everything into a sustainable daily practice. You're not trying to become a perfect Stoic overnight. You're building a lifetime foundation for wisdom, resilience, and contribution. We return to where we began, Zeno's shipwreck, the moment when everything fell apart and everything began, when external disaster became internal transformation, when loss became wisdom. You will face your own shipwrecks. Everyone does. The economy will crash, relationships will end, health will fail, people you love will die, plans will fall apart, dreams will be shattered. This isn't pessimism, it's reality. It's the human condition. But like Zeno, you have a choice in how you respond. You can rage against fate and remain broken, or you can walk to shore, find wisdom, and begin the work of transformation. Stoicism doesn't promise that life will be easy. It promises that you can handle whatever comes. It doesn't guarantee success as the world defines it. It guarantees peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Think of yourself as a ship's captain, navigating unpredictable waters. You can't control the weather. You can't command the tides. You can't prevent all storms. But you can adjust your sails. You can choose your course. You can prepare for difficulties. Sometimes the weather will be perfect, fair winds and following seas. Enjoy these periods fully while remembering they won't last forever. Use calm weather to prepare for storms you know will come. Sometimes you'll face hurricanes, waves that tower like mountains, winds that threaten to tear your ship apart. Your skill as a captain isn't measured by perfect conditions. It's measured by how well you navigate the difficult ones. Your crew, your family, friends, colleagues will look to you for leadership during storms. They'll be frightened. They'll want reassurance. They'll need someone who remains calm while taking appropriate action. This is your opportunity to practice what you've learned, to demonstrate that peace is possible even in chaos, to show that wisdom can guide action even when emotions run high, to prove that character matters more than circumstances. And if your ship eventually sinks, that's the fate of all ships, given enough time. But you can take satisfaction in having sailed with skill, courage, and integrity. You can face the end, knowing you lived according to your highest values. You navigated as well as anyone could under the circumstances. You treated your crew fairly. You contributed to the safety of other vessels. You left the waters cleaner than you found them. Because in the end, everything does have an ending. Ships sink, bodies fail, civilizations fall, even stars burn out eventually. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges. The question is whether you'll face them with wisdom. The question isn't whether you'll experience loss. The question is whether loss will make you bitter or wise. The question isn't whether you'll encounter storms. The question is whether storms will sink you or teach you better seamanship. The path of Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming skillful with emotions. It's about finding peace that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It's about developing character that can weather any storm. You'll still feel anger, sadness, fear, and frustration. But these feelings won't control you. You'll experience them, learn from them, and respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. You'll use emotions as information while making decisions based on values. You'll still have goals and ambitions, but your happiness won't depend entirely on achieving them. You'll find satisfaction in the effort itself, in the person you become through striving, in the contribution you make regardless of recognition. You'll still care about other people's opinions, but their approval won't determine your self-worth. You'll listen to feedback without losing your center. You'll remain open to learning while maintaining your integrity. You'll still face setbacks, failures, and disappointments. But these experiences won't devastate you. You'll bounce back more quickly. You'll extract lessons more effectively. You'll maintain perspective more consistently. This is the promise of ancient Stoicism adapted for modern life. Not a life without storms, but the skill to sail through any weather. Not the elimination of problems, but the wisdom to handle them constructively. Not the guarantee of external success, but the certainty of internal peace. The journey begins with a single step, the step of choosing how you'll respond to whatever comes next, the step of taking responsibility for your inner life regardless of outer circumstances, the step of building character one decision at a time. Like Zeno walking away from his shipwreck toward wisdom, you can transform life's inevitable setbacks into opportunities for growth. You can develop the unshakable mind that finds peace in any situation. You can become truly undefeatable. The storms will come, they always do, but you'll be ready. You'll have the tools, you'll have the wisdom. You'll have the unshakable peace that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for, regardless of what the world throws at you. This is your invitation to begin. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you have more time or fewer problems. Today, right now, with whatever challenges you're currently facing. The ancient wisdom waits for you. The tools are available. The path is clear. All that remains is the choice to begin walking it. Your journey toward the unshakable mind starts now.